We'll go ahead and dive in today. We are going to be talking about from pixels to prints and some of the best practices that I have learned over my time as a photographer, working with Mylio Photos and, of course, Printique, which is one of our partners. My name is Angela Andrew, and I'm a product evangelist for Mylio. What that means is I help our customers be successful with the software. I teach our webinars. I do a lot of live events. I've written our manual. I do a lot of documentation, and I work with a lot of the different teams at Mylio. So the feedback that I get from these live sessions is really invaluable and really does help shape our product. So I appreciate you guys all being here and really do love when you guys give some feedback. In addition to working for Mylio, I'm also a fine art photographer, photo educator, and my family's family memory keeper. So all of that put together to mean I love photos. I print all the time, and this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. So we're going to have a lot of fun today. Before we get into today's topic, I do want to let you know that this is being recorded, and we'll get this recording posted usually within 1 to 2 business days. So probably by Wednesday, maybe even sooner, we'll have this up and posted at community.mylio.com. If you have questions as we go through the presentation today, feel free to put them into the Q&A pod. There's two separate places where you can post. There's Q&A and there's chat. Chat is really great for just commenting and interacting with the other attendees. But if you have a specific question that you would like me or one of our teammates to answer, we also have somebody here from Pratik. We have Libby as well. And then we've got JC and Lori from Mylio as well. They're also helping out in the chat. So as we have questions, please post the questions in the Q&A and whatever feedback you'd like to share into the chat. Also, I want to let you know that we have some really great offers for you guys, and Mylio is giving you the option to get 10% off of family and individual plans. You can enter Mylio10 at checkout, and this is good through June 1st. And actually, that same coupon code is also good at Printique. So they are giving 10% off all of the orders from any customers through June 1st. You can enter Mylio10 at either mylio.com or at printique.com to save 10%. We are also going to be doing 3 different giveaways today of $50 Printique gift cards. So stick around as we go through. We're going to kind of space them out through the presentation. If you are here and online at that moment, you have a chance to win. So hope you guys will stick with us and stick with us till the end because you might win $50 at Printique. All right, so what are we going to do today? We're going to find ways to find the best photos to print. I'm going to go through some of the steps I take to prep my photos to print, make sure they look their best. We'll talk about exporting and export settings when you're working with a print lab, whether you're working with any print lab that you choose to work with or specifically with Printique. And then we'll walk through the process of sending images from Mylio Photos specifically to Printique, which is super, super easy. Let's go ahead and start by selecting photos to print. Mylio Photos has some amazing tools built in to help you locate your best shots. In addition to doing things like adding star ratings and flags to your photos, there's some amazing search and filter tools to help you find specific images. So you have something in mind that you want to print, being able to locate it is really, really easy. And if you've taken the time to go through and flag some of the pictures in your library as favorites, you can easily pull those up as well. So let's go ahead and start by jumping into my Mylio. I'm going to show you a few pictures that I've already flagged for myself that I am interested in printing. But to go ahead and give you an idea of how this works on a global scale with Mylio Photos, I'm actually going to go to the All Photos view, and I'm going to go ahead and close the quick filters here for a second, and I'm just going to scroll all the way up to the top. Let me go ahead and do one quick thing here. I'm going to go ahead and switch that to the public view. Perfect. And you can see this is my entire library. So if I want to make some prints, maybe I want to create some wall art, and I'm not really sure where to start, but I've put in some time organizing my library. I've, marked some things with 4 and 5 stars, or maybe I've used pick flags. Those are really the two that I go to most often to find those best shots. You can also use filters and search to find pictures of specific people. If you know that you want to say print a picture of your kid or print a picture of your mom, or maybe even you and your mom together for Mother's Day, or you and your dad for Father's Day. Those are really great ideas of things that you might want to search to print. So in Mylio, we've got both dynamic search and quick filters. This dynamic search here lets you take a look at your entire library and search for specific things. So let's say I want to pull together a picture of my dad for Father's Day. I can just type in Terry, There's his name right there and pull him up. And that's going to pull up pictures that have my dad. And I can go here and find anything that has photos of my dad, and that's going to make that really, really easy. Another great way to search through Mylio Photos is using quick filters. And this lets you narrow down your library based on certain parameters. Let's go ahead and open this up. And you can see all of these different options you have for filtering your library. When you're printing, you're probably looking to print your absolute best. And that's where I like to start off here with my 4 and 5-star images. That's going to let me find those best images, the ones that I've marked as ready to go. Typically, there's the ones that I've edited and I really love. And these are going to be my biggest candidates to print. So I can easily go down this list and find specific photos that way. The other tool that I use really often are flags. And these are images that I might want to work on later. So typically when I flag something, it's maybe not ready to go right now, but it's something that I saw value in that maybe I do want to work on. And I've got a couple right here. So I've got this one here of a couple of geese and this one here at Santee Lakes, which was a couple of weeks ago. Just a nice little vista. But I thought this one of the geese and the 3 chairs was kind of fun. Those are ones that maybe I can edit and do something with. So those are really good ways to find images that you might be interested in printing. So from there, what we're going to do is talk about some of the things you can do to make those pictures look their best before you take them to a print lab. So I like to address the brightness and the contrast, maybe add some sharpening, and make sure my colors look good. Now, keep in mind when you print, what a print lab gets and what they are capable of reproducing might be different from what your screen is reproducing for you. So make sure you're taking a look at the settings for your display. If you have settings in your monitor, so like for instance on a Mac, we have things that can actually adjust the color based on the time of day. If you have those kind of settings turned on, keep in mind that might affect what you're perceiving in the picture, and it might look different when you get your print. So as you're prepping things for print, check your display settings and maybe turn some of those things off while you're working on your edits for printing. Once you've done that, then you can start to adjust the brightness and contrast, correct colors, and add some sharpness. So let's jump here into Mylio. And I've got some images that I pulled that I might want to print. So let's go ahead and start with this one here. I've already done a couple of edits on this one, and I'm just going to reset this so we can go through it together. What I'm going to do is go over here to my edits, which is over here on the right. And this opens up a great edit panel inside of Mylio Photos. If you have edits to make, you can do basic edits without leaving Mylio Photos. They're completely non-destructive and they're very easy to work with. Of course, you can go to other applications if you prefer to edit in Photoshop or something else as well. But right now we're going to focus just on the tools that we have available to us here, because that's going to get you most of the time where you need to be, or at least 90% of the way there. So I'm going to just reset the edits here with this little arrow here. And that takes me back to my unedited picture. And you can see it's a little bit crooked. It lacks a little bit of contrast. It's a pretty scene, and you can tell that from the picture, but it needs a little bit of work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off by cropping this, and we're going to just rotate it a little bit because it's a little bit crooked. You can see the line here, and the trees are leaning a little bit. So we can grab this slider here along the bottom and just straighten that out. All right, already looking a little bit better. There's also a few people over here running on the very side. I'm going to get rid of them as a distraction. I'm just going to pull in from the top and get rid of the over there. And then I'm going to adjust this a little bit and keep that horizon line right at that bottom third. And that's just a really pleasing composition. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that composition, hit return on the keyboard, and now we've cropped that image. I might actually crop this in a little bit more too, just to get rid of this distraction here on the left. Let's do that right now. Just being a little bit picky. So there we go. Pull that in a little closer. If you're going into something like Photoshop or something that had a clone or heal tool, you could go ahead and clone that out as well, but we don't have that option here. So cropping is easy and it still preserves the story of this image. That's a very easy fix. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to skip over our presets for the moment for this one. And let's just go down here to tone. I want to go ahead and pull up the exposure on this a little bit. That just brightens up the entire image. And in doing that, it made the sky a little bit flat. So I'm going to then grab the highlights, which are the brightest tones in the image, and I'm going to pull that down to the left. And you'll see that's bringing back a little bit of that texture and depth here in the sky. I also want to take my shadows, which are these areas down here. I want to brighten those up a little bit. That gives us a little bit more detail in that area. And then you can adjust the whites and the blacks. I might pull the whites down a little bit further. You'll see that's even giving us more color there in the sky. And the blacks, you can go either way. I can pull this down, that gives us a little bit more contrast, which looks nice. But if there's areas that are way dark, you can always pull that up to the right if you need to. So it's up to you stylistically. And then we can pull up a little bit of clarity, which is mid-tone contrast. It also gives the appearance of detail. And that just makes that image look much, much nicer. And you can also adjust your color here, maybe give it a little bit more vibrance. And I'm going to leave the saturation alone. And in case you're wondering the difference between vibrance and saturation, saturation is every color in the image. So when you move that slider, you're either making every color brighter or every color darker and less saturated. Whereas with vibrance, that's targeting the least saturated areas of the picture. So it's a little bit of a gentler adjustment than working with just your saturation. So typically I'm going to go for that vibrance slider first and then mess with saturation only if I really need to. Now, in looking at this image, I do feel like there's a little bit of a yellow cast to it. And I'm going to go up here to my white balance and do a little bit of a color correction. I can move this slider here to the left to make the image more blue, or I can move it to the right to make it more yellow. So you can use this to correct color or as a stylistic choice. It's completely up to you. And I think that is actually pretty good right there. We can take a look here at our before, right there, and our after. And then you can decide if there's anything else you want to do. But those are some basic corrections you can do inside of Mylio to get your things ready to print. Making sure that you have the colors good, you have good contrast and all of that is very essential to getting a good result when you print. Let's go ahead and talk about cropping and rotating for a second. Now I showed a bit of cropping already, and the reason for this is because I wanted to get rid of some distractions on the edges, and I also wanted to level that horizon. One of the things that really catches me off guard when I'm looking, say, through social media, and it tells me that somebody doesn't take the time to edit their photos, is when it's crooked. And it's so easy in software to go in and just straighten it out. I almost can never take a straight picture myself. I almost always have to do a little bit of a correction to get that level, but it's just that small, tiny thing, and it makes your pictures look that much better. So highly recommend taking the time to do that. When you're talking about printing, you also want to think about standard print sizes. Now, a lot of labs, including Printique, can do custom sizes. So the sky is really the limit there. You can crop things in a custom way if you want to. But one thing to consider is that typically comes at a greater cost. Standard sizes are going to be more economical, whereas a custom size is typically going to be more pricey. So take that into consideration. And when you're cropping, if you want to go to a square, a 2x3, which is like a 4x6 kind of standard size, a 5x7, or even larger 8x10, 16x20, these are all standard sizes and standard aspect ratios, which if you're in the print dialog in Mylio is really easy to get to. So let's just jump back over here to the print dialog. And down here at the bottom, we've got our aspect. And you can choose these different aspect ratios. Let's go ahead and just choose 2x3. And that puts us at a standard size. And we can go ahead and hit return and done. And now this is a standard size, which makes it much easier and oftentimes more economical to print. All right. And then a little bit about advanced editing. There are a ton of tools out there that you can go crazy with and spend a lot of time and have a lot of fun with. Some of the ones that I love for AI editing or just more in-depth advanced editing is Radiant Photo. I like Luminar Neo. And of course, I'm a big fan of Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw. These are optional. You don't have to have these to edit with Mylio Photos. Like I just showed you, you have all of those basic tools right there in the app that you can work with. But if you do want to work with a third-party editor with Mylio, it's super, super simple. You just go up to the photo menu up here to the very top, and you choose Open With, and you pick the application on your computer that you want to edit with. It's very simple, and you can save back to that same folder. It'll show right back up in Mylio, and you can carry on and you can print whichever version of it you like best. So just know that that's an option. And, if you need to do some advanced editing, like I said, whether it's for creative or you have problems to solve, those third-party apps can be very, very helpful. One of the things that you might want to explore is something like a Luminar Neo or Photoshop is cloning or erasing. If you have distractions in your picture that you want to clean up before you print, make sure you think about that before you send that off to the print lab. All right. Next up, we have one of our giveaways, our very first one. So I'm going to call on Lori to go ahead and select somebody at random out of our audience. And that person is going to get a $50 Printique gift card. Lori, you're up.
Okay. Let's see. We have selected Eric Miadi, Miyadi. If you could send me your email, you can put that privately in chat, and then we'll send this off to Printique to get your prize.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. I hope you take advantage of that. You can get some great stuff for 50 bucks. There's lots of really great options. And Printique I found is very affordable for what they do. And the quality is great. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So congratulations. All right. So the next thing we want to talk about as we're prepping our images to print is the resolution. And this is something you might see in different forums and on different spec sheets for different print labs, but maybe you don't know exactly what it is. So when you're talking about resolution, it's measured in what we call DPI, which is dots per inch. And a higher resolution typically equals a better print quality. Some of the recommended resolutions that you're going to want to think about for professional prints for the best quality, 300 DPI is the goal. Now, that's not always going to be possible depending on how big you're trying to print and how big the image is that you have, what tools you have available to you. You might need to go lower, and that's okay. Going lower is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if we're talking about larger images, because when you're looking at a small print, you're going to be looking at it very close. So let's say you have like a 4x6 or an 8x10, you're going to probably be looking at it maybe 12 to 18 inches away, maybe even closer. So high quality, a 300 DPI is very important at those smaller sizes. When you get up to something larger, you probably are going to be standing 3 feet or more back from that image. And so having that DPI be a little bit lower, 240 or even 150, can still be very workable. Just know that if somebody goes in and they want to look at that picture, 5 inches away from it, yes, they might not see that great quality. But if they're standing back and taking in the entirety of the image, it's going to look pretty good. So those are just some recommended resolutions as you go through and do that. And just to give you an idea of what this equates to at 300 DPI, these are some of the common sizes and their equivalent resolution. So you can resize your photos and see what you're going to be able to print. So just for example, a 4x6 print at 300 DPI is going to be a 1200 by 1800 pixel image. If you want to go all the way up to like a 20 by 30, you're going to have a 6000 by 9000 image to have it at 300 DPI. So that's a lot of pixels. And let's jump into Mylio and take a look at where those numbers can be found so you can reference that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch here to the info panel, and I'm going to select this image here. This one here I took with a medium format camera, which is a big camera with a massive sensor. I think it's 102 megapixels, 101, 102 megapixels, and it produces massive images. If you can see right here, we've got 11,604 by 8703. It's a 2.63 gigabyte file, so that's huge. But that means I can print this very, very large at really, really high quality. So that's not necessarily what you're typically going to see on your own personal images, but I wanted to give you kind of an extreme look. And then we're going to go take a look here at this one here. Now, this was the image that I originally had. It's one of my favorite pictures that I have of my husband. I took this with my iPhone, back in 2013. So this was maybe an iPhone 4, maybe an iPhone 5. And then I also sent it through Instagram. And then I downloaded it from Instagram later on. So this is a really, really small file. At 612 by 612 and only 123K, if we look at those spec sizes, I wouldn't even be able to get a 300 DPI print at a 4x6. That is a teeny, teeny, tiny file. So luckily, I do have the original of this image, which is a 2025 by 2025. Same photo. You can see there's very visually, very little difference. And I can actually print this one much larger. So 2025 can give me, up here in the 8 by 10, like an 8 by 8 or, a 7 by 7 square at 300 DPI, and I'm going to have a very, very good print quality. And like I said earlier, you don't have to stick with the 300. You can go down lower. Just know that the closer you look at it, the more obvious it might be that there's limitations, but that gives you kind of a guideline of what you're looking at in order to make these kinds of prints. Now, if all I had was this particular image, there are things you can do. So when I go ahead and take a look at those sizes and I decide what I'm going to print, we want to, we reach for that 300 DPI, but like I said, you consider how close you're actually planning to view that image. If you're wanting to have an image that's big and you're going to be standing 3 feet or more back, you can actually sacrifice some of that DPI. However, with something so small as this, say 612 by 612, if I actually really wanted to print this, I would probably need to have a little bit of help from software to do this. And the two tools that I would recommend for this are going to be Topaz Photo AI, which is probably the easiest to use and my favorite for this purpose. It has a lot of other problem solving tools inside of it, but one of them is that it can upscale and upres, give you bigger resolution of images. And so you can go in there and say, make it 2x or 4x, and it will use AI to interpolate and make that image bigger. And it does a really, really remarkable job. It is not perfect. I do encourage you, if you use a tool like this, you want to zoom in, make sure those details look realistic because it can create some funky artifacts in the detail areas. So just be cautious of that and know that the bigger you take something, if you take something really small and make it really big, the chances of those artifacts becomes greater. But Topaz Photo AI is a great tool for that. The other one I would recommend is Topaz Gigapixel. So it's from the same company, from Topaz Labs. And Gigapixel is a photo restoration favorite. It does the upscaling and it also does good facial reconstruction. So if you're upscaling something that's a picture of a person, check that out. It's got some really, really neat features. I would say you can't go wrong with either one of those. You don't necessarily need to have both of them, but I would give them both a try. I think they've got a free trial. If you need to give something a boost on its resolution, that is the way that I do it. All right. So that brings us to being ready to print. And the thing that I love about Mylio Photos is you can work with any lab that you want. Once you've got your pictures ready to go, you can just export them, or you can use that built-in Printique integration, which we're going to go through in just a moment. If you want to use a different lab, all you have to do is go to your export and choose one of the presets for printing high quality or standard quality. Select whether you want to send a JPEG or a TIFF. Usually I check with the print lab to see what they prefer. Most consumer print labs are going to prefer a JPEG, whereas if you're going with a pro lab, you're probably going to want to send them a TIFF, send them maximum quality, and most of them prefer the sRGB color space. So let me show you where to find that here really quick. So let's say I want to go ahead and take the higher quality one of this, and I want to export this to send to a print lab. What I'm going to do is go up here to the export and choose export. There's these presets at the top, and I can go down here and just say, I want to make this my print. Let's see, there's printing high quality. It's going to give me a TIFF file, the original dimensions, maximum quality. I can change this color space here to sRGB, and everything else there looks great. I can say export. That's going to ask me where I want to save this on my computer. I'm going to just go ahead and put that on my desktop, click save, and then you go to whatever print lab website you want to use, grab that file off the desktop, and you can upload it to whatever print lab works best for you. If you would like to use Printique, that is super simple. So what I'm going to do is just give you a quick preview, and then we're going to give away our next gift card. What you would do is go to that same share button, go down here to post, and then click Printique. And that's how simple that is. We'll go through the whole process here in just a moment, but I'm going to throw it back over to Lori for our second giveaway.
Okay, the next winner is Martha Caldwell. Martha, if you could put your email in the chat under hosts and panelists, and we'll make sure that you get your prize. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Martha. Hope you enjoy that gift card. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in and talk about Printique. So when we at Mylio looked at integrating print services. It was something we could either say, oh, we want to try to build our own print lab, which was really not an option, or we could partner with somebody who does this really, really well. And there are a lot of print labs out there that are great, but we love Printique because they have amazing customer service. They have their products are fantastic, and we were able to integrate our platform with theirs really, really seamlessly. So if you're looking for a print lab, I highly recommend checking out Printique. Their prices are competitive, their quality is outstanding, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I've made with them here in just a moment. But they do photo books, wall art, calendars, prints, and so much more. They've got a great, if you want to do books, they have a great builder on their website that you can go through and take all your pictures and put them into these beautiful books. And like I said, the integration with Mylio is seamless. I just gave you a quick little preview of that. And let's go ahead and walk through that right now. So the way that you're going to do this, like I said, is you're going to go and you're going to select your picture. So let's just go back here and I'm going to, let's grab this one here. I haven't printed this one yet. Let's say I want to send this one. So I'm going to go up here to our share icon and I'm going to go down to post and we're going to choose Printique. Now, if this is the first time that you're logging in here, you're going to be asked to either log in with your account or create a new account. Once you do that, you will get to this screen where you can enter in your file name. If you already have a title there, it will pull that in. You can then choose which gallery on the Printique site you want it to go to. By default, it's going to go to one called Mylio Photos, but you can go ahead and open this up. And any other one that you have already created or you want to create a new one, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at Mylio Photos. And then you go ahead and check that you have the right to publish this content. Please feel free to click that link and read the terms. But basically what that's saying is you either own that picture or you have the legal permission to print it. And then understand that Printique can only ship images to the USA and Canada. Once you've checked those two boxes, go ahead and click post, and that will send that over to Printique. You go ahead and go back in here real quick. And we can jump over here to the Printique website and take a look at our stuff. So I'm going to go here to, I'm already logged here into the website with my account. And I can just go here to photo galleries and all of my images that I have already uploaded are going to be available here. So let's see here, there's that Mylio Photos gallery. So that picture would be right in there, ready for me to choose for creating some wall art. So it is that simple. It just simplifies and streamlines the process of getting your pictures from your organization tool, in this case, Mylio Photos, to the place where you want to make your prints. I really can't say much more about it because it's just so incredibly simple. So let's talk a little bit about choosing the right medium for your wall art. Printique has a lot of different options available. And for this particular session, like I said, we're going to focus on wall art, which are basically those big pieces that are ready to hang that you can put on your wall. I have a handful here that I'd like to show you. And I'm going to just briefly stop sharing my screen so you guys can see the full image here. Lori, let me know if this shows up okay. And
Uh,
I've got, first off here, this is a
looks good,
canvas.
Angela. Looks
Huh?
good. It looks
Good?
good. Yeah.
Cool. So different pictures print well on different types of media. Canvas is something that I would say is very forgiving because it has a texture to it. If the DPI, if that resolution is a little bit low, Canvas can be a really, really good choice because it has such a forgiving nature to it. These are made really, really well. You can see I have it mirrored around the edges, and then the back is fully finished and ready to hang. It's got a great bracket here, and I think these are really, really nice options. Let me go ahead and move on to my next one that I have is a wood print. And these are really special. This one I thought turned out really beautiful, and it is a print actually on wood. If you go ahead and turn it to the side, you can see it's actually a piece of plywood, and there's like a really weird portrait effect happening with my camera. Let me fix that really quick. 1 second. Give me just a moment here. Turn that off, maybe that'll help. All right, yes, cool. I took that weird portrait, and now you guys can actually see the texture and a little bit better. It's not cutting off in a strange, weird way. So this is what it looks like to print on wood. And again, it's got already the holes pre-drilled in the back, and you can go ahead and just pop this right on a nail on the wall, and it looks beautiful. It's not very heavy. I mean, it is wood, so it does have a little bit of heft to it, but it's not, because it's plywood, it's a little bit lighter. So that's a really nice option, and I think looks really good for natural scenes. If you have something that has a lot of depth and detail and drama, then you get into the more glossy things like glass. And this is really pretty. It is on the heavier side. It is pretty thin, but and you can see it's very reflective. And on the back, it is nice and ready to hang. So this is just beautiful. It's not sharp on the edges. It is, you can get them with rounded edges, I believe, too. This one is not rounded, but it's not super sharp. Um, so another gorgeous option. And finally, my favorite is printing on metal. And this is for things that have a lot of grit and detail and drama. So this is an old rusted out school bus. And I would say this is probably a great material for this type of subject, but it's not something I would do for a person typically, unless you're really trying to show every bit of life that they've ever lived on their face. It's going to show every line, every wrinkle, every pore. It shows all the detail. And it's a beautiful, beautiful material. It's got a little bit of a sheen coming through. You can see the metal. And then on the back, again, it's ready to king. It comes with the hardware. It's really a cool option. So these I think are fantastic. It just really depends on the subject matter you're printing and the quality that you have to work with. Let me get this one put down. Perfect. Don't want to mess them up because they're too pretty. All right, let me go back to sharing my screen. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the different options you have for your printing. There's lots of variables here. You can also just do prints and have them matted and framed at your local shop. I believe actually you can get framed prints also from Printique. I think they do that as well. So that's also a good option. And then I encourage you to have fun. So go through those galleries that you've uploaded, find some pictures and start playing. Let's go ahead and create one together right now. I'm going to go back over here to Safari. And I'm going to actually go into here. There's an image in this one here that I want to print. And I think this would look beautiful on metal. So what I'm going to do is go back here and let's take a look here at our different options. So you can see there's books and photo prints, and we're going to go here to wall decor. And I'm going to go down here to metal. And you can go ahead and get this done in a single, or you can get it done in panels, which is kind of cool. And then you can also choose your shape. In this instance, I'm going to just go with a basic rectangle. And let's make this bigger. I'm going to go up here to an 11 by 14 and let's say create now. And that's going to go ahead and bring this up. And here is where it really is simple. You just go into Printique galleries. Because we've already uploaded our images, I'm going to go here into this one. Let's grab this one of the bridge up in Astoria. And let's say we want to have this be in the original color. I don't want it in black and white. You can adjust the placement here, so you can zoom this in. I'm going to go ahead and keep that where it's supposed to be. Color correction is optional. So if you have not taken much time to do color correction and editing on your own, I do recommend turning that on. If you have taken a lot of time on a calibrated monitor and you know that your colors are exactly what you want them to be, go ahead and leave that off. It's completely up to you. But I would say if you know what you're doing and you know that your monitor is calibrated and you have a color managed workflow, keep that off. If if you're not big on color and you're just like, hey, I just want to print this fun photo of my kids, you maybe want to go ahead and turn that on. The next thing we have here is this quality. This is gauging that resolution or DPI that we talked about. So based on the number of pixels that were available in this picture, this is up there in the excellent quality. It'll tell you here if it's going to be, fair, good, or excellent. And I think that's a really nice little indicator. You also have the option of choosing if you want it to have a fixture on the back. I do like that wall float, but if you want it to be freestanding, you could do that acrylic pedestal as well. And then you can choose your different finishes here. This again is a very personal choice. And I like to do the glossy or the silver satin. I like it because you get a bit of that actual texture of the material, the metal that comes through. Whereas these ones here, like the glossy white, it'll give you still have the brightness and you have that reflective nature, but it doesn't give you quite that metal finish. I like to have a little bit of that brushed silver coming through. And then you can go ahead and just say add to cart. It goes into your cart. Go ahead and complete your purchase, and that's it. It's super, super simple to go ahead and order your stuff directly from Mylio Photos and send it to Pratique and be able to make that beautiful, gorgeous wall art. So with that, let's jump back over here to the presentation, and I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. And there's a few things that I want you guys to take away from this. The first is to spend some time curating your best photos. Go through, add some stars and flags to your images, find the ones that are the best, and tell the best story. With that, you're going to edit with your print in mind. So as you're going through and making those edits for print, keep in mind that you want to make sure your brightness and your contrast and your color match what you see on paper, not just your screen. So again, if your screen has those night shift options to where it gets darker or lighter, maybe adds a little bit more yellow during different times of the day, turn that off before you do your editing for print, because that's really going to impact the quality and the color that you see in that finished result. Pay attention to your resolution. Aim for that 300 DPI if you can, but know that if it's going to be a big print where you're standing way back looking at it and you're not looking at it and doing what we call pixel peeping, as long as you're not pixel peeping and you're standing back at the appropriate distance, a lower resolution typically is going to be okay. You can do well with even down as low as 150 DPI and still have a very reasonable print. Make sure you're using the right settings to export. If you're not using that integration with Printique, check out the print lab that you're using and see what their recommendations are and use those recommendations when you send them files. That's going to give you the best results. And then finally, Printique makes this the easiest thing to do. I highly recommend working with them. My experience has been very positive, and the feedback I've gotten from other Mylio customers has also been incredibly positive. So send those pictures directly from Mylio to Printique. You guys are going to be happy, and it's a lot of fun. All right. So just to let you know a few other events that we have going on. At Mylio Photos, we have our community. So if you go to community.mylio.com, and if you add /events, you're going to get a list of all of our upcoming events. We do a live Q&A every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. On Fridays, we do special presentations that are usually about 15 to 20 minutes, followed by some more Q&A, also at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. And then our next webinars we have coming up, we are partnering with a company called Artifacts, and we're going to be talking about decluttering. That's going to be less stuff, more stories. Those are going to be on June 10th and 24th. And JC, who's here helping out in the chat today, is going to be hosting those webinars. So those are going to be a lot of fun. With that, I want to go ahead and wrap up with our last giveaway of the day. So Lori,
Oh,
go ahead and take it away.
all right. Before we give the giveaway, Libby with Printique put into the chat, she did verify that you can get framed prints through Printique, and she also offered her email address. If you have any questions, you can reach out directly to her. So that's libby@printique.com.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. For the last giveaway today is the lucky Tony Irving. Tony, congratulations. Please put your email address in the chat under host and panelists, and we'll make sure you get your prize. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Tony. All right. And then as we're wrapping up here, I do want to let you know that Mylio 10 coupon code is good at both Mylio and at Printique. They both get you 10% off. So if you didn't win a gift card today, you can still get 10% off your purchase at Printique. And if you're interested in learning more about an individual or family plan at Mylio, go to mylio.com, enter in Mylio 10, and you're going to save 10% there. With that, I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for questions. And Lori, JC, is there anything that I need to answer?
There's a couple questions in the open Q&A,
All right, let me take a look.
starting with Mark.
All right, Mark says, besides the megapixels, how does DPI come into play? So that's really a big part of it, is the megapixels are going to determine your DPI straight out of the camera. So the size of your sensor and what your camera is capable of capturing is going to be a big factor there. If your camera doesn't capture a very big image, like I said, there is software you can use to upscale your images if you're wanting to print really large. And even having something that's like a 24 megapixel camera, which is what I typically use, I've been able to print up to a 6 foot wide canvas and it still looked amazing. So don't be too keyed in on that. And like I said, you can go down lower than 300 DPI and still have a very good looking print. Hopefully that answers your question, Mark. If you have a follow-up, let me know. Anne says, do you know if there's an equivalent of Printique that ships to the UK? Libby, that might be a good question for you. Do you know of any options for UK printing?
Yes, we can actually. You would get a third party basically involved, and there's quite a few. Ship It To is a very popular one, where basically I'll put it in the chat here. But you set up an address with them, and what we do then is when you check out a Printique, they ship it to that address, and then they'll forward it to you.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. All right. And then Monique is asking if there a good basic tutorial on how to color calibrate your monitor. So Monique, I don't know of a necessarily tutorial on that, but what I would recommend is if you're serious about this, to consider getting a colorimeter. The one I use is called a Color Monkey, and I don't even think this particular model is made anymore. The brand is now called Calibrite, and it's this little guy right here. And you actually put it directly onto your monitor. You plug it in via USB, and it does a series of patches of color. It will actually make a custom profile for your monitor to calibrate it and make sure it's displaying things properly. I think the cheapest ones are a couple $100, and I think the more advanced ones, I think are $400 to $600. If you are serious about printing, and this is something, especially if this is your profession, I do highly recommend getting one of these. I've had this one for several years. It does the trick. Might have to buy a new one at some point. Luckily, the company who bought the software from X-Rite, which is no longer around, it's now Calibrite, they are still supporting the old model. So thankfully, I don't have to replace that anytime soon. All right. Alan says, are there any tips for organizing photo books for a multi-day foreign travel? Yeah, there's some great options for that. I would personally make use of albums inside of Mylio to curate and gather the pictures that you want for that multi-day trip. So whether you want to have one album for the entire trip or you want to have one album with sub albums for each day, go ahead and gather those things up and group them in the way that you think you're going to want to have them in Printique. Get those edits done and then upload them all, put them in a single gallery on Printique, and then use the tools there in Printique to either lay it out yourself, or there's some really cool tools in there where you can have it auto lay things out for you. It'll take that gallery of images and populate your book for you. And then you can move things around and fine tune it if you need to. But I think that would be the best is just use those albums in Mylio, which are, let me show you real quick. Go back. So albums are virtual groupings. With Mylio, you have folders and you have albums. Folders are where your pictures physically live on your hard drives. Albums are virtual organization. So you can put things into an album. You can have one picture that goes into as many different albums as you want. It doesn't physically duplicate it, and it doesn't physically move it on your hard drive. So they're very versatile and they're perfect for this kind of thing. So I actually have a travel album and then different trips that I've taken. And I've got my favorite images from some of those trips in these albums. And that is exactly how I would use them to do that photo book. All right. Are there any other questions? See what we've got going here in the chat.
There's nothing in the chat, and I don't see any more in Q&A.
Think we're good then.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope it was useful to you. My goal for this was to make sure you guys have the tools to make excellent looking prints. And whether you choose to use Mylio and Printique or you go and use other tools out there, I want the stuff that you put on your walls to look amazing. So with that, I want to wish you guys all a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you, Lori, JC, and Libby for being here and answering questions. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you at some of our other live events. Thanks, everyone.